Capability Maturity Model is a framework that helps organizations to improve their processes by providing a set of guidelines to improve how they do things. It has 5 levels, like steps on a staircase, each representing a different level of process maturity. Let's take an analogy of baking a cake. At first, you might not have a clear recipe, and the cake might turn out differently each time you bake it. But as you get more experienced and follow a specific recipe, your cakes become more consistent and better. The first phase is initial phase. Here processes are unpredictable, poorly controlled, and often chaotic, like baking a cake without a recipe. Second phase is managed. Here processes are documented and standardized, which makes them more predictable and controllable. Here you start using a recipe to bake your cake. Third phase is defined. Here processes are well defined and understood across the organization. Now you have a clear recipe and everyone follows it. Quantitatively managed. The processes are measured and controlled using statistical and other quantitative techniques. Now you not only have a recipe but also measure ingredients precisely to get consistent results. Fifth one is optimizing. Here, continuous improvement becomes the norm. You are always looking for a ways to make your processes even better, like finding ways to enhance your recipe or baking techniques. We can now apply the above concepts in transaction monitoring model. So at the initial phase, you don't have a transaction monitoring policies or procedure. Transaction monitoring systems are not developed as per organization risk profile, and there is no segregation of duties between first, second, and third lines. In the second stage, although the scenarios are developed, but they are very general and lack depth, the transaction policy and procedures are developed but insufficiently detailed. Transaction monitoring does not matches with organization risk profile. Also, scenarios in transaction monitoring are in limited numbers. The alerts processing and notification process are capacity driven rather than risk appetite of the organization. There is no audit trail for alerts processing. Although there is some segregation of duties between first line, second line, and third line of defense, there is no adequate job description. Further, there is a second line monitoring and independent internal control, but their operating effectiveness is insufficient in terms of frequency and quality. The management information is provided periodically, but it is not extensive. The training sessions are incidental that are conducted in response to audit findings or incident, but their content lacks quality. In defined stage, customer risk profiles have been properly developed. Transaction monitoring sufficiently matches with organization risk profile. Transaction monitoring systems are fully developed to recognize unusual transaction. Further, transaction monitoring policy and procedures are sufficiently worked out. The alerts processing and unusual transactions have been sufficiently defined, including escalation to second line. The second line monitoring and independent control have been designed and exist. Their frequency and quality are adequate. Obligatory and optional training sessions on AML safety are offered periodically. Their quality is sufficient and they contain material elements. In fourth stage, quantitatively managed, transaction monitoring is incorporated in all the function of organization and its effectiveness is measured. The elaborate management information is available to senior management about transaction monitoring results and they provide appropriate direction. Optimizing. Organization is proactive towards developments in money laundering and terrorist financing. Organization has a frequent discussion with investigative authorities. All employees and senior management have extensive knowledge and are fully aware of money laundering and terrorist financing risk and control. Senior management acts as a role model for improving transaction monitoring system. Obligatory and optional training sessions on AML safety are regularly offered. New development in the area of money laundering and terrorist financing are immediately applied to the organization day-to-day practices and there is an active cooperation and consultation on transaction monitoring with other financial institutions. In the description section below, you will find self-assessment questionnaire that you can fill up to identify in what stage of capability maturity model your transaction monitoring lies.